how you doing, folks? It's Mitch from Hard Intentions YouTube channel. We also have HARDINTENTIONS.com. Please check us out. We got some shirts and some other stuff you might like. You know, I was just thinking the other day about a friend of mine named Doug. I met him then down at CMF back in the 80s. And, you know, he just had a few years to do. I think he had an 8-year term, you know. And many years later, that was in the early mid 80s, you know. And so later on in the late 96, I ran into him a little over 10, 12 years later, you know. I went to Corcoran and there he was. I'm like, hey, what's up, brother? You know, how you doing? Chatting. What the fuck you still doing in prison, you know? He says, oh, I killed my Celly. I said, what? Yeah, he goes, yeah, they sent me to Folsom, man, from you know, CMF, and I killed my Celly. I said, motherfucker, dude. So he got 15 to life, you know, for killing his Celly. And he says, you know, and he laughed, you know, and he goes, you know, the good thing is if I don't want a Celly, I don't have to have a Celly. I said, yeah, that's cool. So you know, just imagine, man, like, especially like you're doing a life sentence, what it's like when they just come and stuff some guy in your cell, you know. You know, I had some good Cellys over the years. You know, obviously my very favorite Celly was my best friend, and one of my best friends, Dirty Dennis from Oakland, you know. God rest his soul, you know, rest in peace. He was a good Celly, man. We lived together for many years, never argued, never fought. When there was a fucking issue, like if I fucked up, so I was a youngster, he's an older guy, you know, he got busted like 1970, 1971. So he's a little older than me, and he's mentored me, you know. So if I fucked up, you know, we'd chat about it. Never argue, never fight. Lived together for many years, and it's a pretty rare deal to live with somebody for that many years and never have a fight or, you know, an issue that would lead you to you know, move out of the cell, part your ways, and have bad terms. To live with somebody for years on end, it's difficult. You know, you live in a 6x9 box. Well, 6x10, I believe, is the cell size. You're living in a box, you know. And we had common interests, you know, motorcycles. He's from Oakland, I'm from San Diego. You know, we were partying, you know, snorting crank and smoking weed and taking pills and drinking wine. You know, I remember, you know, he says, I don't like that fucking wine, you know. Well, I was pretty good at making wine. So one time I made some wine out of oranges and grapefruit. And, you know, I came in the cell, I had a gallon of wine, and I mixed it with ice and bubble up. You know, I said, hey, try this, it's a wine cooler, you know. And that was it. He got hooked, you know, he loved it. But, you know, we got along pretty well. We lived together for many, many years. I've never had another Celly that was as good of a Celly as Dirty Dennis was to me. And I think because, you know, I really liked him, and I looked up to him. And, you know, my wife says, like, I had a few guys in prison that were like surrogate dads to me because I had such a shitty dad growing up. And, you know, I was in such a life or death situation in prison at that time that these guys are mentors to me, and she refers to them as surrogate dads, you know. But and in some ways she might be right. You know, I was a young man, they were older, and they gave me a lot of game, you know. And I tell people today, I was talking to my friend down the way that did 45 years, and I said, you know, brother, we had some good times in there, man. You know, met some good people. So, you know, just think about having a Celly. Just imagine being in a cell, in a cage. Your Celly leaves. You know, I left. Obviously, I transferred out of that place and went back to San Quentin and went to New Folsom. And I got to New Folsom. I had a couple decent Cellys, but nothing like Dirty Dennis was, you know. And I've never had another Celly that could measure up to Dirty Dennis. I had a good Celly at Corcoran, called him Sonic Hedgehog, Brandon Lyle. And if anybody knows Brandon Lyle, it's from San Fernando Valley, please put him in touch with me. I did love him to death. But he, you know, once again, no one can measure up to Dennis because he was my friend, mentor, brother, you know, all that. But Brandon was a good Celly. You know, my Celly, Matt was a good Celly. He's from Dago, homeboy. Also in Corcoran. When he left, Brandon became my Celly. But the thing is, like with Brandon Lyle, Sonic Hedgehog, tattooed on him, and we used to party. I was still partying, we're snorting cranks, smoking weed, and I think it blew him away, man. The amount of drugs I was bringing in and getting. I wasn't bringing them in, but I was getting them, and the level of the party, because when I partied to the fullest. I didn't do nothing halfway. If it was halfway deal, I was like, I'm cool. So we had a lot of fun. And, we put some guys to check on that yard. Had a guy, Jack Leo, thought he was a fucking shot caller on that yard. And Brandon went out to the yard with me and helped put the guy in check, let him know he wasn't running shit. With the Dago car or the San Fernando Valley car, he had my back. He was a good dude. When you live in prison, like for your first term or you go in the pen, or if you've been around, whatever, it's another story. But like you move in somebody's cell and you assess the situation. And if you think you like that guy, you like his program, you like his get down, you like what's going on in his head and his heart, he's a decent person, you become good with him, you're going to stay in that cell with that guy, then you're going to have his back. If you can develop that kind of a relationship with your cellie, it's a very rare thing, but you scored. I'll just put it that way. You should have your cellies back. I had cellies, man, that guys were talking smack about. And, I come in and tell them, hey, this guy's saying this and that about you, whatever. Let's go out the yard and handle it. And, the guy's locked up. So, they obviously weren't what I thought they might be at the time. That was a test, and they failed, right? I had other cellies, man, like when I was in San Quentin, I was smuggling tobacco, and I had a cell phone, and I met this youngster, Scotty. He's from Orland. Yeah, God rest his soul. He died when he got out of prison, and I broke my heart. My mom came and told me in Soledad that he had died, and I started crying right there in the visiting room. And my relationship with him was that he was my cellie for about a year, and I was smuggling tobacco, and I tell him, here, I give him a pouch of tobacco. That's your allowance, every time I hit, and I'd laugh, because he was a youngster. He was in his 20s. And obviously I was in my 50s, and, I was a little older, been down quite a long time. This is like 2011, 2010, and later on, I got busted slinging tobacco, and I went to Soledad, and some other guys followed me over there to Soledad, and they told me, hey, look, man, that Scotty would be on the yard, doing pull-ups, and he was a young hog, and guys would be talking shit about me, and Scotty tell him, hey, man, fuck you. You don't even know that guy. My cellie's a good motherfucker, and fuck you. And I was like, wow, really? He said, yeah. Because when you're obviously, I had tobacco, and it's a highly desired commodity in prison now that it's illegal. I think it's worse than drugs, really. And guys get mad because I tell them, hey, man, I don't smuggle tobacco to buy your friendship. I smuggle tobacco to make money. I got a family and friends on the street I take care of. I take care of myself, so fuck you. Guys are offering me drugs and shit for tobacco. I tell them, man, fuck off. I don't use drugs. So I made a lot of enemies, and they'd be talking shit when I'm not around. And there Scotty was putting them in check. And it really warmed my heart to know that he did that. And he was a super good young man, and I met him. I said, look, youngster, being a gangster isn't about being a tough guy and tattoos all over the fucking place. And it's about making money. And the only time you got to be a tough guy is when motherfuckers don't pay you, and he got it. And he was just, man, he was just a solid fucking cellie. I miss him. You know, he got out of prison and somebody gave him some methadone pills to sleep. We were traveling out of town doing iron work, and he took him to sleep, and he never woke up. So it kind of broke my heart, you know. But you know, I've had some really bad Cellys. I had Cellys, man, that snored, and they were guys I loved. So we ended up, you know, I ended up getting cell moved for whatever reason because I loved the dude, you know, but he snored like a fucking chainsaw, you know. I just couldn't, you know, I have a hard time sleeping anyway, and guys snoring, you know, if it's a guy you love, you know, say, hey, bro, I can't hang. And, you know, I'm sure he understood. I had other guys that snored that moved into my cell. And, you know, I went to CMC in like 1990 for a Category X program. That was a lifer program. And this guy was snoring. I came home from work one day, this guy's in my cell. And this is a fucking prison that lifers go to for 90-day observations and a year and a half psychotherapy programs to get psych reports for the board. So when we go to board, have an idea of what kind of person we are, and to get a good report, your chances of getting out of prison were better. So, you know, I came home from work and I was already starting to develop the mentality that I was never going to get out of prison. And there's this dude in my cell. I'm like, all right, cool, I'll give him a shot. He's kind of a lame. He started snoring, you know, first night. Every time he started snoring, I wake him up. So, you know, in the morning, I said, check this out, motherfucker. When I come home from work, I want you out of my cell. And I came home from work and he was gone. And then the cops started fucking with me. So I think he told the cops some janky shit about me and, you know, got me in a little trouble, got my cell searched, you know, got me fucked around, but he had moved to another yard. So, you know, whatever. That was kind of a shady prison to be in. And I couldn't wait to go back to DVI. That was a prison where you would go and do your 90-day observation and go back to the prison that you came from. So, you know, there's guys like that. And you know, there's guys also that are Cellys that you beat down, you know, because, you know, you get a Celly. Obviously, you want to know what kind of person that they've moved into your cell, and you check their paperwork, and the guy's got a fucking weird case. And you know, you smash them. Well, in my case, I had a Celly that didn't have paperwork, wouldn't produce paperwork. I'm like, all right, cool. And I got, you know, I've been down so long, I didn't show motherfuckers my paperwork. I'm like, all right, it's kind of a modern thing because back in the day, you didn't need to show your paperwork. The clerk in R&R knew what the fuck you're in prison for. So anyway, you know, dudes just turned out to be really fucking fucked up Cellys. And, you know, so I beat him down and move him out. Tell him, you know, same thing, when I come back from work, be gone, find another fucking cell. And, you know, I come back from work sometimes and guy would still be in my cell. I go, what the fuck's up, dude? I told you to, you know, be the fuck out of my cell when I came back from work. And the guy would be like, man, I talked to the sergeant and I told him, you know, that, you know, you're an older guy and we don't really get along. They didn't say that I threatened them, you know, and the sergeant said tomorrow he'll find a cell for me. And then the next day came and the guy moved. So, you know, I give him a little bit of leeway, you know, unless they're a super piece of shit. Then I smack him in the fucking mouth and tell him move the fuck on. But, you know, I had done a lot of time, man. I had zero tolerance for piece of shit Cellys, you know. I had Cellys, man, like guy would move in. I think, all right, this dude's okay, you know. And then next thing you know, I work all day. I come home from work. I want a little cell time. I was doing my artwork. You know, I'd go out to the yard, lift weights, come in, do my artwork. And dudes are never gone. Weekends, they're in the cell all day. That's my days off. I'm gone 5 days a week. They don't want to give you any cell time. I'd be like, hey, check this out, dude. I need some fucking cell time. You got to have cell time. And for guys never been to prison, and if you're headed to prison, just remember this: respect your fucking Celly's cell time. You need some time. I worked 5 days a week, all day long, come home, count, chow, yard, shower, sell. That, so I'm gone all day. And if I had a seller that was home all day, in the evenings, I expect that motherfucker, or the weekends, to give me some time in the cell by myself. You need to have cell time by yourself to get your head right. See what I mean? You want to write letters to your loved ones. You just want to lay in your bed and listen to music and reflect on, where you're at, where you're headed, what you're trying to accomplish. You need to do that by yourself in that cage alone. And a good celly will understand that. And they'll be like, hey, bro, I'm going to sell. I'm going to the yard. And they go out the yard, like on the weekend, they'll go out the morning yard. They might come in at 12 o'clock, count, eat lunch, say, how you doing? Boom, 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 and then bone out for the afternoon yard and give you the whole fucking day for yourself. That's a good celly. So just remember that. If you're headed to prison, remember that. And if you've never been to prison, you don't plan to go into prison, how you could equate that to the world out here, if you're married or if you're renting an apartment with some roommates, just know that people need to have their fucking space. And in prison, that was really, really important to me. It really was. Sometimes, cellies don't get along and they fight. And, for me, if I lost a fight, I would let people know, look, I don't take losing fights lightly. If somebody was to beat me down in a fight, I'm going to do one of two things. I'm going to come back and I'm going to fight him again, or I'm going to stab him. That's how it is. I don't take a loss of a fight in most cases, lightly. So, guys, sometimes they don't get along. They fight either in the cell or in the yard. And if they get caught, then the cops are involved. And for white dudes, especially, there's a policy, marriage chrono. So what's a marriage chrono? Marriage chrono. Marriage is a unit, right? So a marriage chrono is a get along chrono. Chrono is a 128G is a general information chrono. There's another 128. I forgot the alphabet that goes with it. It's a disciplinary chrono. So if you don't get along with your celly and the cops become aware of it because you're fighting and they see you, or even if you get in a fight with a dude on the yard, for white dudes in California prison, it's mandatory you sign a 128 chrono, a marriage chrono, a get along chrono. We call them marriage chronos, And so if two dudes, especially if they're both good dudes, they'll sign a marriage chrono that tells the cops, hey, we're going to get along with each other. We can live on the same yard. That covers the cop's ass. Because normally, if I beat some dude down or he beats me down, right, and the cops see it, and get involved, they pepper spray us, break it up, take us to the sergeant's office. Lieutenant comes in, hey, what's going on? Or the captain, they have to cover their ass. If they put us back on the yard and I stab the dude I got an altercation with, then the cops are in trouble. So they make you sign some paperwork saying that you're going to get along. It's a get along chrono, marriage chrono. So for white dudes, it's mandatory that if you get in an altercation with somebody, you sign a marriage chrono. It's mandatory. Otherwise, you're basically ratting, saying that you don't want to be on the yard with that guy. And then if you don't sign the chrono, you go to another yard. Who knows what else you told the cops about that guy or the guys on the yard. They will send somebody after you on another yard. Like Donovan prison, all the new prisons, they got 3 or 4 different yards, facilities within the main prison. So it's like 4 prisons within one prison. But, guys work plumbing, carpentry, welding. They interact with each other from guys from other facilities. So if you get in an altercation with somebody, especially your celly, you don't sign the marriage chrono. Now, if you get into it with your celly, you sign a marriage chrono, they will move you to a different cell, but you're still going to be on the same yard. So anyway, if you don't sign the marriage chrono and you go to another yard, guys are going to be like, all right, that guy didn't sign the fucking marriage chrono. He PC'd up off our yard. And eventually word will get over there and you're going to get fucking smashed. Yeah. I don't know how they do it now, but when I was in prison, before I got out, they started 2-on-1ing guys. So what they would do is they catch you on the yard, act like it's all good. 2 guys come and jump on you in front of the cop, which is worse to me than not signing marriage chrono, because you're letting the cop know we don't want this guy in the yard. And guys go to the hole for a couple, weeks, whatever, and they come back to the yard, and then the guy they jumped on, he gets locked up. They ruin his career. And so marriage chronos for whites are mandatory. I got lucky, man, when I was younger and I moved in with Dirty Dennis. We lived together for many years, and he educated me about prison. And later on, I had a good celly. Todd was my celly. I had a good celly, Dean Adams in New Folsom. He had been at Tracy back when the baseball bat incident happened, so he'd been around. We weren't really tight, but I knew I had a good, solid celly. Tracy had some really good cellies, Damien, some other guys. But when you don't get a good celly in prison, life is really hard. It's a miserable fucking experience. I had a celly one time that sold some of my tattoo ink when I wasn't there. I worked nights, and I'd sleep during the day, and I was kind of sleeping. I heard him at the door making a deal with his celly, with his homeboy. And the next day I looked at my ink and it was gone. I had told him, don't fucking sell none of my ink. Dudes don't have nothing coming. Tattoo ink in prison is a commodity. He had given some of my tattoo ink away. Babyface was his name. I think he was from Long Beach. I beat his fucking face in. Told him I was gonna fucking kill him. Told him I was gonna take all his shit. He was a punk ass motherfucker for giving my fucking ink to somebody after I told him not to. And it wasn't I was being Bogarting my shit. It was that it was hard to get. And I went to the yard and came back, and all his property was gone. He had given all his property to somebody, and the next day he moved out of my cell. So, having a good celly in prison, it's a difficult thing to accomplish. It's hard to get a good celly, somebody that you like, somebody that you respect, or even someone that you just respect and they will have your back. It's a difficult thing. You're living with some guys that are not the most brightest or smartest or sharpest cookie, right? It's hard. It really is. So, I try to have a little humility, recognize a person's character. What are their fucking qualities? Is it going to work? Can I make it work? If not, fucking adios. Yeah. So, who's your celly out here in the world? Who's your celly? Are you renting a fucking hotel? Are you renting an apartment with your homeboys, right? Sharing the place. If you are, respect them. Respect their fucking space. Give them some time in the apartment alone, right? Are you living with your girlfriend, your wife, right? Your kids? Be a good celly. No matter who you're living with, be a good celly. And if they're a good celly to you, respect that. And, it's not easy. I got a great celly and a great wife, and I love her to death. So I'm lucky. I had some good Cellys in prison. I got a great one now. So, you know, I hope you do too. And I hope you understand, you know, living with someone out here in the world, it's a lot like living with someone in prison. You just got a bigger space. You went from a 6x10 prison cell to, you know, a 20x50 double wide or an apartment or whatever, you know, a 1,500 square foot house, whatever you got. Respect the person you're living with, whether it's a loved one or a friend. Respect them. Get out there in the world and fucking do it hard. Thank you.